Good evening, LinkedIn and YouTube community. We are live again with yet another insightful episode. Busy Talks presents Content Strategy in 2024. Guys, in our last few episodes, multiple experts have said the same thing that content is the king. And to reach your audience correctly, you have to have your content right. To create a content which is right for your audience, you of course require a right strategy. And for that, we have with us today Miss Debasri Rakshit. Hi,
Hello.
Debasri.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. So, Debasri, why don't we take few minutes to introduce you to our audience?
Sure. So currently, I'm the co-founder and chief content officer at superteams.ai. We are a company that connects the top 1% AI researchers, developers, writers, and influencers with businesses, primarily B2B businesses. Here, what I look at is, shaping the overall content strategy. I work closely with the writers and the influencers themselves. We are also building, a developer advocacy, platform where a lot of
Hmm.
developers are talking about businesses, and we are trying to improve the developer experience when developers and of course consumers land on websites. And primarily we are working with AI, AI companies, AI startups. So that's what I do currently. My startup journey began in 2019 with Spark.live, where
Hmm.
we were teaching business skills to women and young people from multiple professions across the country, from 1,800 towns and cities of India in multiple Indian languages. That's how I started my startup journey. But before that, I was purely in content. I was with Amazon in their books division. Before that, I was with Penguin Random House. I was with HarperCollins, working
Nice.
on 300 to 400 books. And I have also done studied publishing at IIM Ahmedabad. So that is my background.
Wow, wow. I must say that's a quite diverse background and coming from so many areas. I'm sure that you understand the content very, too much in detail for any particular startup that you work with. So, Devshri, my question first would be, what has changed in terms of content creation in past few years? What are the changes that you have observed?
See, I think in the last 5 years, especially propelled by COVID in a way, what changed
Hmm.
was content distribution and the way that we were consuming
Hmm.
content. Right, the channels in which we were consuming content. Of course, a lot of people,
Yeah.
moved from the big screen to the small screen. From Netflix and YouTube, we moved to TikTok videos and reels, short form content. So and of course the channels, from obviously television had moved away a long time back, but even then, the channels to and the movement to social media was a big movement. So I think that was one. The other thing that we saw in the last 5 years, was the growth of micro influencers. Whether it's like someone
Hmm.
say like a Prajakta Kohli or a Kusha Kapila, who at one time they became Instagram stars, but then they moved on to becoming, actors and global voices and all of that. So this rise of the micro influencer and money going in that direction in terms of advertising revenue, a lot of other projects. That is the second thing. And the third thing that I saw in the last 5 years, I think, was the growth of LinkedIn, especially in the last 3 to 4 years, and LinkedIn
Hmm.
influencers and LinkedIn content sort of, um, you know, uh, really like reaching its pinnacle in terms of the kind of content that's going out there, and LinkedIn becoming, the front runner in terms of getting leads for businesses.
Good. So now with that, what changes do you predict for 2024? What do you see that would really change or would really affect the businesses?
So it's not just me thinking, but what we see, all of us, 2023 was about the beginning of the use of a lot of AI tools, and that is what is going to pick up a lot in 2024. Already, a large number of us are using AI tools in offices, and that is something that is going to grow a lot in 2024, and not just 2024, but beyond 2024 to in the next 5 years. So, uh, you know. Uh, there are multiple reports. McKinsey has done several reports where they show how much certain for example, AI prompting is one area where it's where we'll see a lot of growth in the number of jobs. In terms of content, of course, the most important change that is going to happen, in the if the last 5 years was about disruption in content distribution, the next 5 years is going to be about disruption in content creation. How? Because of course, now we have text to translation, text to video, text to image, image to video. All of this, these were impossible a few years ago, but with the rise of AI tools, all of this,
Hmm.
for example, Meta's audiocraft can create original music from music that you already have. So all of these were impossible things before, and that is what is going to be the game-changing thing in the next few years.
Okay, so we'll talk about the AI part a bit, later when we speak about it. So let's talk about the strategy first. That if we were a bootstrap startup, okay, and bootstrap startup has very limited resources. So nowadays, SEO has become a lot more difficult than it was before, and it is essential for startups to spend money on the paid ads or the paid promotions. So how can startups still control on their resources and plan a good content strategy?
See, again, this is where, though we will discuss AI later, the
Hmm.
fact of the matter is that if startups have to save money while also, coming up on Google search, or while, having a marketing team, having a very lean marketing team or a very lean content team, but also have volumes of content, right? I'm not talking about quality though, but because for every startup, the most important thing is to first get some information out there, the first 20%, the first 30% bit of the work, right? And that a large part of it can be automated through AI. But having said that, I also think that, for a bootstrap startup, because I have myself been bootstrapped twice before, and I know, and I'm working with a lot of bootstrap startups, and I know that the first layer, is of course to build the product. But once the product is built, one of the most crucial things, depending on the product, is to build a layer of advocacy, a layer of influencers, micro influencers, or people talking about your product. And that does not always require a lot of money, but it requires some effort in terms of, for example, of course, we know that as an SEO tool, backlinking. But backlinking is not actually done by a lot of companies, like it is not practiced. Like people put a lot of information out there in terms of, blog content that's going out. But no, if there is actual backlinking from, some high value websites, then that really helps with SEO. The same, what backlinking is what, we would do in real life, which is that suppose I buy a product, suppose I use a product, I want to use a product, I actually say go there. That is what backlinking is. So whether it is, backlinking on the website, or whether it is advocacy on, on LinkedIn, on other social media platforms, the first thing is this word of mouth, or this, this other people saying that I have used your product. That is a very, very doable hack, which does not require a lot of money, but some effort in terms of organizing all these people to sort of talk about you, the first set of believers to talk about you, and then moving on from that. But as I said, that this is one tool, and the other thing is, of course, using, AI to generate huge amounts of, chat GPT. For a lot of us living in India, right? A lot of us cannot write immaculate English, but if you put your ideas, if you know what is it that you want to market, and if you put your ideas, in chat GPT, then at least it will do a huge round, like it will do a very clean editing on top of it, so that when you actually speak out, your language is immaculate. So these are tools to actually use, and this can really help everyone, save money.
Okay, so Devshri, you mentioned that you have bootstrapped as a startup founder twice, right? So could you give us some highlight how you go about your content strategy for your business?
So, see, the way we went about content strategy, one difference between that we have been a content platform to start with. So we have always had people, uh, including me, but also other people who were already interested and had experience in content. So therefore, in terms of what the USP of the company should be, how that messaging should go out, is something that we have an inherent, what should I say, feel for, and are able to communicate that.
Okay.
But that is not the
Okay.
case with a lot of other startups, especially right startups which are from the technology domain, for whom uh, this is like, marketing or content writing or content advocacy, something that is completely coming from a different domain. So I would say for people who are, and most startups are like that, right? Most startups are not content startups but startups in many other domains. And for them,
Hmm.
and that is one of the fields that we are also working with, in terms of working with startups to help them with their content strategy. But what we did, was actually the biggest thing about content strategy and about a company is actually figuring out what one's USP is, in terms of how does one stand out in the market vis-a-vis one's competitors. Now, there are some domains where, for example, whether it is AI, whether it's for many other domains, right, where you will have many people, coming into the same domain and working in that same field, right? But there also one needs to find an USP where one will say that, I there are certain things that we do better. For example, we are currently working with a material testing lab in the US, and for them there are hundreds of other material testing labs. But when we are doing their content strategy for them, we are trying to figure out, for example, are they giving better pricing? Are they doing the testing faster? So even if it is like one or two USPs where one sort of stands out, those are the things to sort of go out and talk about. Because instead of, saying all the things that we already do, because that is common for many other people also in the market, because Google also flags it up.
Hmm.
Your people on LinkedIn, everybody will notice you for that, for the 2 3 things that you stand out in, and which is something that you're honing over time.
Okay. So one thing you spoke about is that when you were preparing your content strategy, you guys were already knowing how to go about it, right? So an experience in content strategy is a prerequisite, which we understand from this discussion. Uh, can we talk
No,
about?
no, I'm not saying that experience in content strategy. It was because you asked me how did we go about it. I said I already
Okay.
had experience in it. But
Okay.
somebody or a company where, somebody they don't have an experience in, you know, experience in content strategy. The most
Hmm.
important thing would be to figure out one's USP, and then
Your
hone
USP.
down on a USP in their content strategy.
Okay. Uh, cool. So then we have to identify the USP and work around the content around that USP. Okay.
Around that USP.
Okay. So ठीक है. So startup है उसने USP identify कर लिया and then they work around the content strategy. Now let's talk about the media of a content strategy. What media should a startup select, which is right for a startup? Let's take an example of a IT SaaS startup. Okay, how would they go about choosing what channels are they supposed to, broadcast their content at?
So for an IT SaaS startup, which is primarily B2B,
Hmm.
the biggest channel is of course Google, because nothing beats Google in terms of, people landing on your page and your website ranking going up, especially if it is a product where people are going to land on your page and, actually going to choose one of the many options that you have in terms of payments and all of that. So for any SaaS product, whether, I mean, one of the most famous SaaS products is Stripe, right? Or any product which is, whether big or small, Google plays the most important role. And the number of landing pages, there are many hacks that one can do in terms of, having multiple landing pages,
Hmm.
for one's website. Then of course, there are people who have had a lot of trouble with WordPress. They have they have migrated to better forms of newer software. So like say a webflow, and that is something that I have seen myself. As a content person, I used to find it very difficult to upload content on WordPress, and with webflow it has become a very effortless process, which means that you can have non people who do not have understanding of technology actually come in and make changes on your website, update content on your website much more effortlessly. So this is one thing I think, that choosing where your website, what platform your website is on. The other thing is, in terms of having the number of landing pages, and Canva is the company which has done the best job on landing pages, and they are also a SaaS company. Though you and I can go on Canva, it's mostly businesses who use a paid account on Canva, and that's how Canva makes money, right? So Canva is also a SaaS company and a design company to boot. So, and what they have done is that every page that you land on is a separate landing page, and that has been a big hack for them in terms of how much traffic is coming. So the first is of course website and landing pages. The second I think is, of course, it depends on the company, but LinkedIn. Um, these days I also see a lot of reels on Instagram. Facebook doesn't work anymore, but reels on Instagram on different companies marketing their products. But as far as Instagram is concerned, you will have to have the voice of the CEO, or voice of it has to be a personalized voice. It cannot be the company's voice talking on Instagram. So if there is a representative of the company who is very comfortable, media savvy, comfortable coming on screen and video, then Instagram would be a good option.
Okay. So let's talk about type of content when you spoke about Instagram. So Instagram is now very popular for reels. Although YouTube is more for a long form content. But would YouTube be as advisable for people to generate the traffic and backlink it to their own website as compared to Instagram?
See, YouTube. I have seen Instagram being much more impactful than YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube is more for, like SEO. It is also a Google product. YouTube is more
Yeah.
useful for longer term impact, where over maybe a period of a year or so, that a video can get a certain number of views and have some impact on the original website, on the original product. But as far as if you want instant recognition, instant reward from your marketing, Instagram would be a much better choice.
Even for B2B?
Even for B2B, because especially so for B2B, because how many businesses are actually landing on YouTube? How many? Because like how many of us are going on YouTube to watch business content, right? And vis-a-vis that, even if fewer of us are on there on Instagram to watch business content, because they are in the form of those short form reel content, you can actually move from one to the other, and the name of the company will at least register in your brain. Versus, it's much more of an effort to actually go to YouTube and browse through videos. There are companies I know who have created YouTube videos on their product, but I hardly see, even for the more famous companies, I hardly see any traction, unless of course it's an Elon Musk or someone, a really big celebrity, coming and talking about their product on the, like I saw him talk about the Cybertruck on YouTube, and that was attended by lakhs of people. But one has to have that kind of an impact on YouTube. YouTube is much more about very big celebrities. But for smaller startups, for micro influencers, I think Instagram is a much better platform.
Noted. So again, coming to the form of the content, since we are talking in that area. Earlier there used to be cold calls, then we came to email marketing, then we started blogging, and nowadays the reels are working, better than all those contents. What are the other unconventional methods which are actually coming in after that we will see in 2024 and henceforth?
One thing I saw, and this started about 1.5 year back,
Hmm.
was when there was all this conversation around blockchain. You remember 1.5 years back, a lot of people were talking about blockchain and blockchain startups, and that was the time of the rise of, white papers, when a lot of people and a lot of startups were raising money on the strength of white papers, and there was a lot of conversation around it, which means that a little bit of the conversation around startups, especially technology startups, moved to a bit of research and became research oriented, and that is what we see even after that. Whether it is white papers is one of the focus areas where a lot of new companies are actually focusing on. I see a lot of B2B startups having white papers. The other thing that I see a huge number of people doing across the world globally is case studies. That is something that I did not see 4 or 5 years back. And case studies is very similar to advocacy, or very similar to because now with increasing passage of time, we are inundated, like businesses are also, everybody's inundated with products. So when an actual case study of something what has worked for somebody before, somebody reads that much more because blogs is something very generic, right? Everybody can write the same blog, so blogs have lost the kind of value that they had before. And a lot of blogs are also AI generated, so nothing, no new information comes from the blogs. But of course, when one writes case studies, one writes white papers, then, and very importantly, thought leadership content, I'm seeing that through LinkedIn, whether it's through LinkedIn articles, etc. But thought leadership for any business, especially B2B business, especially for their management, senior management, really helps to build trust. um, Other businesses start trusting the founders, that these guys know what they are going about, these guys know their know what they are doing. So that is one thing. The other thing, of course, I think is podcasts, and that has been growing in the last few years, and that is all set to grow. uh, so yeah, so I think that would be the new forms of content. So new forms of new ways that there can be advocacy, like a lot of people are doing live events and shows, and these are the new kind of marketing hacks that are coming to the foreground.
Okay. So one question just popped up onto my mind is that the form of the content, like the reels are really short. Maybe it's because people have shifted their oops, sorry guys. Hey, am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying that the length of the content has reduced basically. Earlier, we used to see advertisements also, which were 3-4 minutes, and then it shrink to 1 minute, then 30 seconds, and now really the reels are becoming 15 seconds each.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, however, Nike and some other brands, they still have their content which are long and they really grab attention. So how is that working out for them?
This is what, and this is always a push and pull between long form and short form content. Just because there are reels doesn't mean that there is not going to be a movie, or a
Hmm.
hit movie, right? The last year we saw the huge rise of Bollywood, and of course Hollywood. Um, but so I feel that um, people think that short form content is what will grab instant attention, but for human beings to process something, to process an idea, it takes more than 8 or 15 seconds. So something, a piece of content, that is why I mentioned white papers, or even longer ads or longer videos, where a video could be of a founder talking about the product. A video could be and that actually I have seen has much more impact in terms of mind share. People remember, right? How are we able to talk for an hour, right? Because something that is going on for a bit longer time is what people remember, and it sort of gets imprinted in their minds, vis-a-vis something which is very quick and brief. So maybe that will come and go, because I am also on Instagram, like quite, like at least half an hour, 40 minutes a day, and I see a lot of companies, but it's not that they are leaving an imprint on my mind. I am viewing them, but how many we need to check how many people are converting from viewers to, actually reaching out to the company from Instagram Reels specifically to boot. Of course, for certain brands which are like D2C brands, I can give an example of a D2C brand like, say, a Suta, which is about saris. I have seen them grow on Instagram and with Reels, but that is not. That is how they are capturing engagement. But their actual growth in terms of sales is happening on the ground by them actually opening stores across the country, right? So Instagram Reels are good for that one few seconds of enjoyment, but I don't think they have. Ultimately, a person is going to buy your product, especially for D2C products, right? They're going to buy your product and they are going to badmouth you if it is not good. So 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 there is a difference between, you know um, attracting something momentarily and actually making an impact.
Okay, so can I conclude this manner that we should have short form content on Instagram to pull the crowd to your long form content
Long form content or your website or your
or your
product,
website?
something that
Hmm.
will evoke better trust, or something where they'll be able to experience something more deeper than the real.
Okay, no, that really sounds like a strategy. Is there a golden ratio of the short form versus long form, or we can really experiment what works out?
See, for each company, for a D2C brand, of course, it will be a lot of short form, much more short form than long form. For a B2B company, for whom, building thought leadership is more important, the ratio of long form will be much more, because too many short videos or too many things which could be memes or which could be fun may also go against the brand, right? Or somebody one may not take a brand too seriously if they were to do too much of what should I say, too many short videos, too much of fun. What How do I place this, right? A
Hmm.
brand is also perceived in terms of how serious it is, right?
Hmm.
For some brands it is important to build trust through that seriousness. For some brands it is important to build trust through having a lot of people engage with it. So it depends on the brand, how much the ratio of short form to long form.
Okay, okay. So far we conclude that we can play around with the long form, short form as far as the brand essence is not compromised.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so now let's talk about the content creation, and let's talk about which AI tools are actually working out for startup founders to create impactful content.
See, I will say that I am every other day, experimenting with a new AI tool.
Hmm.
Having said that, I will first start out by saying that there are certain challenges and constraints to AI tools, and then I'll talk about the actual AI tools.
Sure.
So the first thing that I have seen, and this is across Google Bard and ChatGPT and say Perplexity.ai, which is very good with looking up content which are journalistic. Suppose you want to look up something on the Israel Palestine war, you can go to Perplexity, it will give you sources. It's very good with that. But having said that, I am seeing that uh, even today, 30 to 40%, or at least 30-35% of the content has hallucinations in it, which means that not all of the content is correct. So therefore it is very important that there is a human sitting somewhere who, after giving the prompt, also vets some of this information. And especially with chat gpt and chat gpt 3.5, it was very good because it was still content in 2021, right? And any content that is where you can ask chat gpt, which is on subjects which is general or static till 2021, it is very good. But something where you talk about ideas, whether it is movies, whether it is advertising, whether it is content about, say, in the last 1 year, the amount of hallucination is just goes up, right? And it is not aware of things which are happening, say, yesterday or day before, things which if we do a Google search, we'll be able to find out much better than going to any of these platforms. So hallucination is one. The other thing is an authentic voice. Because, say, if you are trying to build your company versus I'm trying to build my company, our voices are going to be very different, right now what an AI tool does, it makes all our voices very sound flat, right? As if your voice
Right.
is equal to my voice equals to somebody else's voice, right? So therefore, when I as a reader come, right, I cannot identify one person's voice from the other. And as a human being, also remember that I don't want to read AI's voice. I want, when I land on a website, or when I'm reading, or uh, consuming any piece of content, I would ideally want it that a human being is there, or a group of human beings has produced something special for me. But what AI is doing is flatlining all of it into something very homogeneous, and I should say boring for a lot of people. And that is something, as I said, that startups who are bootstrapped, they can use AI to generate, say, volumes to start out. But the moment you go for personalization, the moment you go for a unique voice, you will need somebody in the team, or at least the founder. There should be that voice. A human being will have to sit behind that voice. There is no avoiding it to stand out in the market. But having said that, there are many things where AI can be very useful. I use ChatGPT for editing, for copy editing. um, for example, that is one. Then of course, I don't know, I mean, anyone from the world of technology will know about stable diffusion, which is like a very popular technology which has come out recently. And with stable diffusion and stable video diffusion, you can convert image to video. You give an image of a cat, it will become a video of a cat in different scenarios. Things like that, which is very useful for social media. Then there is audiocraft, which has been released by Meta, which is again open source, where you can put, say, Ed Sheeran's music, it will generate a different kind of music. Then of course Canva has AI tools. There is a company called Astria, where you can go and suppose you want to create an actor, say Deepika Padukone in playing cricket. They will be able to do that for you. So what I'm saying is that a lot of things are possible using our imagination if we are able to use AI tools smartly. These were not things that were possible before, because one would need an illustrator, one would need, a marketeer, one would need a full social media marketing team to generate interesting pieces of content. But if with maybe one or two people, like, you can drastically reduce it by 70-80%, the amount that you spend on marketing, the number of people, personnel working on marketing, you can, with imagination, one can create very powerful content. And the other thing where I feel for Indian startups is going to be very useful, translation services, where suppose there is a website landing page which is in English, you want to communicate it in Telugu, Bengali, Hindi, you can do it through, it's called Hathi something. I have to just check. But it's an initiative of AI for Bharat, which is of IIT Chennai. They have started it, and it is a new initiative. But very soon it is going to. It is very good with Hindi right now, but very soon we are going to be able to see translations in other languages. So these are different ways that AI can actually very, very easily simplify one's life.
Okay. So we spoke about a lot of AI tools, but can you handpick some tools which are affordable for startup founders?
Yes. So I think uh, so one is, of course, if a startup founder needs help with coding, I have seen ChatGPT does a very good job. It does better job than it does with blogs, for example.
Okay.
If I were to ask ChatGPT for a blog, what it would generate versus what it would generate, suppose someone was to build a mobile application, or it's very good with code because that's what it has been trained on. So it does help a lot with that. Um, then both with front end and back end. So that is one. Then for anything, as I said, perplexity.ai, again, for any recent news, anything which is happening yesterday, a lot of AIs are not good with that, but perplexity is very good with that. Then of course, there is Adobe Firefly. There is which is very good for generating images. As I mentioned, Astria is another one which is very good for generating images. There is Audiocraft, as I said, for music. All the ones, stable video diffusion, the only one for generating videos, short videos. And short videos is something that we all want, right? Whether it is for reels or, for, because videos is what attracts people the most. So that is why I'm mentioning stable video diffusion. And so it just it like from an image, if you can create a video, I don't know what more a marketer can actually want,
Mm.
right? So and for example, one will be able to merge images. For example, one is able to now fine tune some of these models, or do an RAG pipeline. These are technical terms, but what I mean to say is that you can actually train some of these models on company data. For example, suppose we are doing content, say, for X company. We can train the LLMs, train the large language model with some company documents, which will generate then output, blogs, case studies, everything which is very specific to that company. So these were things that were not possible before, and for this you don't need a team of writers or content creators or marketers for that matter.
Okay, okay. Okay, so this brings me to my next question that, now since there are many AI tools to help startup founders, this would obviously create a lot of volume and a lot of noise. But then how would you, as a startup founder, stand apart in your content creation?
Yeah, so that is what is, that is why I said that the art of prompting, the art
Hmm.
of prompting the machine is the most important strategy uh, that is going to be vital for startups going forward. And this is not just me saying it. Whether it is McKinsey, whether it is the World Economic Forum, everybody is saying that prompting is going to be, it's going to be a mixture of art and science, because developers were interacting with machines with code. Now they are going to interact with machines with text. And why is it an art? Because today, what is it that I'm going to prompt the machine to produce something beautiful? In New York, there was this one person who won a painting competition or an art competition with just AI art, right? And then people would say
Okay.
that, you don't deserve this, because it was all done by the AI. But then he has mentioned that he has done some 500 prompts. I forget the details, but he has done some 500 prompts over like a period of 2 to 3 months. After that, edited it. It's so much of work has gone behind that prompting and behind that piece of art ultimately. So AI is a tool. AI cannot be a substitute. uh, like the way we have used Google as a tool all this while, right? Or we have used all our social media platforms as a tool, right, for content distribution. Similarly, AI is a tool for content creation, but that doesn't mean that the human being will have nothing to do. We'll just give AI some, random prompts and it will generate a great piece of content. That is not going to happen. So it depends on us how we are using these tools to our advantage. So as I said that, once a company is very clear about what their USP is, if they want to create a logo, for example, they can do it through any of these tools, right? Like generate enough number of images, something that for which they would have required a designer. Or generate marketing content, marketing creatives. One can go to Canva and generate marketing creatives, but exactly which one you're going to use and how you're going to use is up to you.
Right. So, random but very popular question, Debasri. Would AI reduce the jobs and will there be more job cuts?
See, the International Labour Organization and others actually say that AI is going to affect the jobs of women much more than men.
Oh, is it?
Interestingly so, because I was doing some research on this, and but though so there are some professions where AI cannot touch, like whether like doctors are going to use AI to actually enhance their craft. Nobody is going to be able to replace a doctor. But on the other hand, the legal profession. So a lot of these surveys say that the legal profession is going to be badly affected by AI, and there are going to be fewer number of lawyers, just because a lot of lawyers have used certain templates. For example, if I want to
The
set up a company
contract
in the
and
US,
agreement.
right? I want to set up a company in the US or a bunch of things, right? A lot of these templates have now gotten automated through AI. So the legal profession is going to be badly affected. The content profession, yes and no, in a way, that if we are able to use, so I think the world is going to be divided by some smart people who are able to use AI smartly, and some people who are scared to use AI and say that, I'm not going to look in that direction, and that is not going to help anybody, right? Because it is here to stay. It is not upon you and me. So AI is definitely going to reduce the number of people working in content jobs. I started out my career being a copy editor, in Penguin Random House, where my job was to look primarily in my first couple of years was just to correct grammar and punctuation in books. Right today, that job is like moot, right, with AI, because that is something that a lot of AI tools can do. And But on the other hand, if over time, after the first 2 years, I was doing more kind of, the kind of work I was doing on books was I was actually interacting with the writer and coming up with more intelligent suggestions and not just looking at grammar and punctuation, right? So some jobs which are, what should I say, which does not require too much of upskilling, those are the jobs that are going to get more affected. And of course, customer service is going to get badly affected with AI chatbots, being able to answer our queries in a very personalized fashion. um, of course, right, the chatbot will talk to you in a certain way, depending on your purchase history, and the chatbot is going to talk to me in a certain way, in a certain language, depending on my personalized history. So these kinds of personalizations will happen. In advertising, a lot of personalizations will happen. The ads that you see and I see, and my father sees, is going to be very different. So of course, the number of people creating ads is going to get affected. But on AIs can create, storyboards for movies, for filmmakers. The number of people who are, in Hollywood last year, there was a lot of people protesting, right, that AI was doing all the writing for them, and writers were asked only to like edit, or uh, there are a lot of actors who are saying that AI is being used without their permission on their faces, etc. So AI is certainly going to take up some jobs, but AI is also going to create new jobs. So people who are able to use AI smartly will be having those jobs going forward.
Okay, okay, interesting. So, guys, for our audience, it is really, really important to learn the AI tools and make the most use of it, as recommended by Miss Debasri.
No, it's not me recommending it. It is just that across the world,
It is, I
India
mean, yeah, yeah,
India is
yeah.
at the forerunner of this. Very interestingly, India, China, after America and China, India is actually in this one thing. It is actually a leader in this space. So therefore,
Hmm,
I see a lot of young people in India, whether it is developer, whether it's a writer, whether it's a video editor, a lot of people are actually using AI tools much more than people on an average are doing in the West, say in Europe, right? Because there are a lot of regulations
hmm,
there around AI. So what that does is actually gives us a leg up against others in the market.
hmm, hmm. No, I think India is moving towards the gig economy, and there are many freelancers coming up rather than people who would prefer to do a job. And this helps, because they are much more friendlier with AI tools, and even
And
startup
also young
founders
population, right?
and
India's
young
young population, they
population.
are very adaptable to new softwares and new
Yeah,
changes.
yeah, yeah, true, true. And even startup founders feel more comfortable working with them with their because it's all about creativity, and young minds bring more creativity as well. Cool. So, Devshi, my next question is that with all that noise, with all that volume, can we still create a content that really resonates with the audience?
Yes, right. Because all of us here in this room, we know that there are certain companies that we admire. There are certain companies that we follow. Uh, there are some business leaders that we follow. There are some brands that we follow and are faithful to, right? And looking at the best practices of those brands, looking at the best practices of those brands is the best place to learn things from, right? So say for example, if one is a D2C brand, and today I'm living in India, I am inundated with D2C brand content and D2C brand products on many different online platforms and offline platforms, right? But this question always comes up because we see a lot of D2C brands, popping up, becoming very popular today. And 6 months down the line or a year down the line, nobody's talking about them and nobody's buying their products anymore. A lot of them are led by celebrities, whether it's a Katrina Kaif, whether it's a Jennifer Lopez, like a lot of, there are the market is full of products which are being endorsed by celebrities. Or but how does a D2C brand, for example, stand out amongst the clutter? And their content is also very similar. Like, if somebody were to sell sarees, how can your content be drastically different from the 1 lakh other stores selling sarees, right? So therefore, it becomes very important for to get the mind share of people, of course, to create great content. But I think the ultimate test is the product. There is no getting around it, that when first people hear about a company, the first 6 months to a year is all about spreading the message and getting your word out there. But after that, it becomes all about delivery, in terms of what is it that you're able to give to the customers who have actually come to you and bought your product from you. And then it becomes about recommendations. And so today, if I were to buy something, I would see the number of stars that product has, right? And very similarly, if I'm going to use whether it is a Stripe, whether it is there is a company named Design Pickle in the US who they do design. Whoever I want to work with, whether I'm seeing them online, especially if I'm seeing them online, then I would want to see which brands are they working for, who have endorsed them. So I think it is the product that actually matters long term. And N- but to grab the market, yes, the first year, first 1.5 2 years, one can grab the market, with a lot of marketing. But if your product is not right up there, of course, it will have an impact
Hmm.
on, yeah, product, and of course, customer service and behavior and how you interact with your clients.
Yeah, otherwise you will keep spending money on content and marketing, and the end result would be the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
Hmm.
End result would be the same, right? And you would just drain your money on Instagram and Facebook and ads.
Okay. 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 So Devshi, there's one question which again, just popped up. So, uh, there is a content for startups. There is a content for startup founders. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Zerodha has its own content marketing agency, and or the team that they work with. But Nikhil Kamath has identified a separate niche for himself, and he has started this podcast channel on YouTube, which is becoming very famous again. However, that is not related with his primary work. He's creating a separate brand identity for himself. Is that advisable for startup founders, or
See, I think it depends on the product. Zerodha became what it became much before,
much before
Mr.
that?
Kamath became a thought leader.
Yeah.
It's only after they reached a certain level of revenue, when everybody was actually making 100 crores in the house. Three people were making 100 crores, right? And they received a lot of flack for it. It's around that time, around the time of COVID, that they began to sort of build their own brand. But that's not why people came to them in the first place. Vis-a-vis, the head of Cred, he became what he became because of the thought because of the number of Twitter followers, because of the conversations around himself. There is another, of course, Dipinder Goyal from Zomato, who is again a thought leader. But again, when Zomato was growing, he was nowhere in the picture talking about himself. So it depends on the primary, and especially because I follow Nikhil Kamath a lot. And he's very inspiring, very very inspiring. In many of his stories are very inspiring, but a lot of them has nothing to do with the product. And I think that is the best kind of sales that one can actually do. That is what I meant by thought leadership, where you have mind share of the person at the head of affairs. You remember them, not just because they're selling a product. In fact, selling a product, because all of us are selling a product all the time, that it becomes too much. Like, I don't want to go somewhere on a website where in your face somebody's selling something to me, right? Marketing is not about sales. Marketing is about mind share and how people will remember you for a myriad number of reasons, which is not direct sales. So
True.
therefore, I think that is the best kind of marketing, which is which is not saying that, you buy my product. But where
Yeah,
people might,
I feel that people have, diverted from that essence of marketing in a way, and most of the marketing efforts are gone into lead generation,
see, I
which.
see, because I have these conversations with startups every other day about lead
Hmm.
generation, and especially lead generation from Google and spending ad money on Google, is that the number of leads that one gets, very little percentage of that actually converts to real sales, right? So it is one thing to say that I have gotten so many people landing on my website, so many people are reaching out to me, but for what? Right.
Hmm.
So, and but one is spending a lot of money. For example, somebody I was talking to said that, we want leads for a certain geography in the US, but I'm getting leads from a certain geography in India, so it is of no use to me, but I have spent so much of money, right? So therefore, or somebody else said, I am getting a lot of incoming leads from developers, but I want businesses to actually land on my website, because businesses is what is going to give me more business, not anybody who is interested in my content, right? So it is so uh, content is not the, it cannot be the sole driver of actually sales. It is a lead funnel into the actual product.
Interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the content strategy again. How can a startup measure the success of the content strategy and use the insights to optimize their efforts?
So I was thinking when I was thinking about this answer, and I thought about it. It's just that the measure of success has remained, pretty much constant. In the last 5 years, and the measure of success is going to remain so in the next 5 years. Like the way, content creation has gotten disrupted, the measure of success has remained the same largely, except a big change which has happened in India and globally, which is that VC money
Yeah.
has diminished in a big way. So, of course, the measure of success when a lot of people were raising lots of money was about, the next round and how to get more customers. And that move, the switch from that has moved to, how much revenue are you bringing into the company, um, you know, instead of, how many customers are actually interested in your product, where you are going to make money in the future. So that is one metric which has radically changed in the startup market, with VCs looking for also different kinds of metrics. That's one. But outside of that, whether it is website traffic, conversion rate, time spent on the page, bounce rate, uh, all of this has remained constant. Then one thing, of course, which matters before and now is a number of people who are engaging with your content, right? And earlier people used to say, and I have seen that happen with many startups, especially content startups, which raised a lot of money in 2016, 17, that people are seeing my content. And there were a lot of I don't know if you remember, there were a lot of TikTok clones in India. A lot of people were producing regional language content. A lot of young folks from India were participating in that content. But it was
Yeah.
all about views and how many people are sort of looking at my content. But now it has become about how many people are actually engaging with this content, how many people are actually giving value back to me, how many people am I able to actually reach, right? And this is where, again, I'm unfortunately, AI is going to be very vital, because AI is going to gradually tell you who is interested in what piece of your content and how to make it more personalized to that user, because all of us were seeing the same thing in bulk, right? And it what may be of interest to you is not of interest to me. So I think that kind of, of course, Facebook and others did it through constant tracking of users, but that is going to become more and more and more honed in the next few years. And with this hyper personalization, I think people will be able to engage with content better. For example, chatbots. Today, when I go to a Swiggy or a Zomato or an Amazon or any of the chatbots, I'm engaging with a chatbot who is very generic. I don't want to talk to that chatbot. But I know that in a year time from now, I will be talking to such chatbots with with such speaking skills that I would want to engage with that chatbot. And very soon there are many companies experimenting with chatbots actually selling products. So that will also happen, right? Like of course, people from different languages in India engage with chatbots through the voice. They order on Swiggy through the voice, right? And and this kind of, as I said, this hyper personalization which had already happened with the voice, and now you can do image search on, and very soon, even with the chatbot you can interact through an image, through a video. They'll be able to respond to you like a human. And I think that is where a lot of sales will also happen, because chatbots have become very popular, and all of us want individual attention.
Hmm.
Advertisement or social media, everything is about attention to a lot of people, or something that is marketed to a large section of people. But when I want something which is more and more intimate or more and more personalized for me, I am moving to WhatsApp. Like a lot of people use WhatsApp, right? Uh, and a leg up from WhatsApp will be more personalized, chats and conversations where I'll actually be buying products. I can ask a chatbot, if I this is like, say for example, today if you go on Mintra, an app like Mintra where clothes are sold, you can tell their AI, I am going to go to Goa in the monsoon, suggest clothes for me, right? And they will give you a list of search results which is only geared towards umbrella, wind, like clothes that you would wear in Goa, etc. And what I'm saying that in the next 1 year this is going to become even so much more personalized, that a lot of sales will happen through these personal conversations.
So my question here is that since you gave this example of searching online about clothes to wear in Goa, but then I feel that Google or YouTube or any other search engine keeps on throwing you the same content, depending on the searches or learning about your searches in the past.
Correct.
However, if I were to, just break through that content and reach out to my audience, asking them what kind of services would you require? Maybe they are looking out for a cloth or a clothing line for Goa, but they really want to go somewhere else and not Goa, and they are still not,
Exactly.
you know. So
So that
how?
is what is going to happen when I don't have
Uh,
to actually put this on Mintra, but I can actually tell a chatbot that this is what I exactly want. Give me my search results accordingly.
okay, okay, got it, understood. Okay, so again, one more question with this. Now, there's two different kind of communication. Okay, when you talk about personalization, there are early adopters and there are your already existing customers who might be a loyal customers. Would you suggest that the content for both of them would also be different?
Yes, yes and no. So, there are some needs. For example, if I were to go to Goa during the monsoon, that need would be similar for a new customer and an existing customer. But of course, as far as an existing customer is concerned, an existing customer would want to feel special. A lot of platforms, give certain points, certain credits. Which would be a new kind of loyalty card that we would get in life or online. So therefore, with existing customers, this honing down honing down the process of how they can be made to feel very special, so that they come back to your brand. Because today I have a Mintra, an Agio, I have at least 10 different e-commerce sites to shop from. Why would I go to one of them, right? And that is where I think these personalizations will help in terms of the brand figuring out ways to keep me. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, interesting. Okay, so Deepshri, we have limited time. It's really
Yes.
been becoming a very interesting, conversation between us. But with that thought, I would ask you one final question.
Yes, sure.
What is the one piece of advice that you as a startup founder have received for content, and what would that be, and how would you, give that to our audience?
See, I one thing that I have understood in the last few years when I have been part of myriad startups, And this is the case. This was the case even when I was a part of Amazon. Amazon, though it is such a big company, anybody who has worked in Amazon will know that it functions like a startup. Each of its departments function like a startup, and that is why they are so agile even today. Uh, so, I think that there are many different pieces of advice that I've received, and a lot of these advice um, are no longer valid because times change and markets change, and of course AI becoming a big thing, and AI tools becoming going to become so useful for people. So I really think that one thing, if startup founders are able to incorporate in their team, and uh, this may sound this may not sound all right to you, but I really think that every startup needs one smart person in the team who who is a mix of a right brain and a left brain, in the sense that somebody who is able to understand a bit of technology and has a bit of creativity in them, because I see in a lot of companies, the side which is doing technology and the side which is creative, they work in two different silos and they are not able to converse with each other, right? And I think a person who is able to understand a bit of both is required, and also somebody who is able to interact with these AI tools with very smart prompts. And it's the same person, because this person understands how to interact with technology, is not afraid of it, but is also creative enough to come up with smart ideas. So I think that is invaluable, and there are many books which talk about it. There are many and you will see that whether it is a business leader like say an Elon Musk, or a lot of them are actually not people who are just of course Mr. Steve Jobs, right? He was not a developer himself. He was an artist. He just knew
Yeah.
how to use code in a certain way to build the products that he built, right? So I think that having certain people like that in the team is very very important for the growth of the team, because that is where you're able to um, marry business insights with creative ideas, marry technology with art, and are able to capture the mind share of the audience.
Interesting. Interesting. So, Devashri, thank you so much for
Thank you so much.
sharing the screen. It's a wonderful, wonderful insight that you shared with us, and I'm really proud to share the screen with you. I'm sure that what we'll do is we will have one more session with you in a panel discussion, and I'll try to plan that soon, where we will have our past experts and you talking about content and how we can create a formulate a strategy for content for every person, which is beneficial to them.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.